Okay, people, this is a follow-up with little Peter and what's been going on with his family and Mama Peter and, okay, Lady Jane and just the whole 9 yards, right? Because we're working on program development. In the meantime, it is July 14th of 2024, and I am going to discuss this man who calls himself Joel Obertan. Okay? Now, he's up in Uganda doing different videos. Up in the Kampala area, he just went off and did a bunch of donations for people who, like 2,000 or more people had their homes taken down by NEMA, which is like a government agency, because they said that the land was a wetland and they wanted to restore it back to its natural state. So they just came in and bulldozed a whole bunch of row housing and decimated a whole community and left them high and dry, sitting under the blaring sun at night and freezing cold. I mean, blaring sun at day with the sun blaring, right? With no shelter, with the freezing cold at night, okay? Because it gets really hot during the day and very, very cold at night. And so they gather together around a fire and they huddle for the night to try and stay warm with the fire. And then during the day they disperse and they go about their business trying to figure out where they're going to go. Kind of like what's going on here in Canada, British Columbia, Canada, Surrey to be exact. Okay? To which, obviously, my videos are being highly shadow banned, but there's, you know, nobody should be surprised about that. Okay, so anyway, this fella is also working with another person. I think she calls, if I remember correctly, it's Harriet the Traveler. And Harriet does a lot of videos in Uganda, namely with the markets where they sell goods, right? In Kampala and places like that, right? And somehow, some way, she's managed to partner up with this fella, and you know they're community activists, people. I don't know how serious they are with it outside of, you know, you go where your heart takes you, and I do believe that their heart is taking them in that direction, but I don't think that they've come to full bloom yet, if that makes sense, in terms of being a community activist. I think they realize the need for it, and you know, they're compelled to participate in that type of activity when it comes to community activism, charitable work, whatever. But I don't think that they're, one, fully equipped, because they're like Lady Jane. They're just relying on random donations that come in off of, I suppose in this case, YouTube, from other countries to fill in the gap where their Uganda government isn't there for the people below a certain income level. And, you know, that's kind of standard all across the board when it comes to governments. They're always leaving the poorest of the poor, or the working poor, or the most vulnerable behind in the dust as they go to make, you know, as they go with capitalism, right? So in this video, we've got Joel going on about capitalism in terms of, here's the title: Inside Uganda's Futuristic and Smart Home. Okay? Ham Palm Villas. And this is in Uganda somewhere, right? And so basically, maybe what we should do, because I did leave him an email. Well, not an email. I left him a more recent note here. This is what I wrote. Okay, we know I do my videos on the fly. It is what it is. Okay, and no surprises here, because I'm trying to ask for help from this person who is in the Kampala area where Lady Jane is, to help with the situation with Mama Peter. Okay? I am asking him to help with, I don't know. We need to get the floor done with the rugs and the lanterns. But at the same time, I'm letting Lady Jane know that, you know, I can't afford to foot the bill on my own. Just fork out $500 and call it a day. I want to and I plan to, but it frustrates me because there's nobody helping me to top it off in terms of you do half, I do half, right? I just did a $200 donation about a week and a half ago. Not even that, because there's food doesn't last. It's a renewable commodity that you have to keep buying, and when you're feeding children like Mama Peter does, right, it can only last so long. And if the neighbor kids come, to which after this we're going to go into the update with Mama Peter with the truck and little Peter and what's going on, right? And clearly there's something going on there where the children, when they're hungry, are navigating over to Mama Peter's house to play with the kids. And of course, Mama Peter is feeding her kids, right? But she's also feeding other people's kids now, right? Because, that's what we do as mothers and grandparents and aunts and uncles. The children come by, we always feed them no matter what, right? And so that, of course, depletes, it makes Mama Peter's food drop down faster to the point where eventually she has nothing, because there are no safety nets in there, people, like in Canada or in the United States of America or in the UK or places like that, right? In terms of welfare and food stamps and food banks, and we don't, they don't have that kind of stuff. It really doesn't appear to be that way. And this is why I reached out to this man, because he's boots on the ground. Not only is he delving into the area of capitalism where, rich, wealthy or well-to-do individuals are investing. Let me put this on myself for a minute here, okay? Because I just kind of want to tell you in a nutshell what's going on first before I get too far into it, right? He does a little bit of everything, it seems. He's going to beaches, and you got the young people partying, and, you've got the commerce going with the, like the businesses are like Kampala is a functioning city. And not only is it a functioning city, but through Harriet the Traveler, doing a donation to a woman that has a child with cerebral palsy that was in the hospital, and I think her house was destroyed by the government, but for whatever reason the child had to go to the hospital because of the cerebral palsy, which in my opinion is worse than what Amari has, right? And she went there to the hospital. And I'm in my mind, I'm thinking like a rickety down, broken down hospital, just barely hanging on a thread. And in fact, it was a high-tech, fully functioning, it appeared, I'm not saying that they have everything that they need, but it was clean, it was wide open, it was professional, it looked like it was established. And I'm like, okay, so there are people in Uganda that got mullah, but for whatever reason, they've got that disconnect like we have in Canada, where the poor are expected to basically fend for themselves after they've been tossed out into the streets through eminent domain under the Criminal Code of Canada of you take one over here and you move it over there, but you're putting them at risk to harm, injury, or death, which is a crime, but they do it anyway because they know they can't, nobody's going to challenge them, all for corporate profit for self-interest groups. Okay, so we've got the same thing, in my opinion, going on in Uganda, which is just, I guess, human nature, right? You know what I'm saying? And we've got it going on in Canada, everywhere else in the United States, blah, okay. So, like, how do we reach the wealthy? How do we reach the well-to-do investor that is building these futuristic smart homes in Uganda? Well, you go a few miles over there and you've got children practically starving. I never said starving. I said practically. Okay? But how do we know they're not starving when they're actually practically starving? If you get to the point of being practically starving, okay, you might as well throw a few in there somewhere in that vast country called Uganda, where people are starving. Well, capitalism is moving along. Clearly it's flourishing, because this is what Joel is showing us, which is fine, but where the disconnect is, the people with the wealth, the people with the money, they're not, there's a social disconnect where they don't feel obligated to be socially responsible for those that have less and are on the cusp of harm, injury, or death, because they're being moved, whether it's physically, like when NEMA came in and bulldozed 200 row houses that were established for over 10 years and 20 years that community was there for, right? And it's like one African woman said, like, why do that when God planted us there? If they weren't supposed to be, quote unquote, on those wetlands and live there for 10, 15, 20 years, or however many years that you could almost call it a small village, was situated there for, and then all of a sudden wake up one day and have your stuff bulldozed down, and the brick walls and everything come crashing down with nowhere to go, absolutely nowhere to go, and you're left to pick through the freaking rubble and try and find shelter in the middle of the night with no means to keep yourself warm as you're laying under the stars, wondering where you're going to go next, asking God, why did you plant me here? What is my purpose, so that I can get to the next destination safely? Because we know that the government in Uganda is not going to make that happen any more than the government in Canada, whether it's British Columbia, Canada, or the fucking Canadian government, are going to make sure that the people that are being evicted from their apartments, from their houses, from their homes, are going to get to the next destination safely. Right? So we got the same kind of problems outside of, there's more wealth in Canada to fix the problem than there is in Uganda. But that's not to say that the Uganda people, I don't want to say can't be educated, can't be enticed to be compelled to be part of the solution versus part of the problem. Right? Because it's going to have to, some of this stuff in terms of, in a simple term, program development, has to come from the people themselves in the country and within the community and the districts themselves, in order to be able to pull themselves up as a pull themselves up by their bootstraps as a collective. I've said it before and I'm saying it again. This is nothing new. The only thing is, how do you get that message out when it's a crab barrel mentality, dog eat dog world? The rich keep getting richer while the poor keep getting poor, because they're stuck in that rut too. And with Joel, right, coming into the game of being a community activist, where his subscribers are now giving him money to donate money to those people that lost their houses, even if it's just 100,000 Uganda shillings, I guess, right? Where they have a little bit of food money, people. That's it. And again, it's not it doesn't renew itself on its own. It's not a renewable resource that they can just right? It's a commodity that needs to be replenished, right? But the wealthy are moving along like nothing's happening, right? Just like they're doing it out here. Because there's benefits to creating poverty. I'm not sure what the benefits are in Uganda, outside of it's cheaper to be negligent in terms of you get to be a money pincher, you get to be a Scrooge with your millions and millions and millions of shillings as you build futuristic condos for the elite in Uganda at the expense of ignoring the little Peters and the Mama Peters and the neighborhood in which they live in, with everybody else being ignored, which creates social problems and community degradation. As you know, it spirals down, right? So if you're gonna build condos, futuristic condos, in one of the poorest countries of the world, when it comes to children practically starving because they're falling through the cracks because there are no safety nets for the ones building those condos, well, really, like, how much pride can they take in their buildings knowing that a few miles away children are practically starving and living in squalor because the rich are taking advantage of the corporate opportunities that the government provides to them under the guise of property development, right? When in fact property development oftentimes just centers around self-interest groups exploiting the most vulnerable so that they can get rich and amass great wealth for themselves, the interest group, before they actually make a whole community well. No, they don't make a whole community well. So we can't assume, I can't assume, although I've already have assumed, right? I can't assume that whoever invested into this futuristic building is like a Westerner full of self, you know, full on themselves, right? Like, you know, stuck on their own egos, or masochists and sadists that don't give a shit about anything except the almighty dollar, and are willing to commit legislated crime against their own legislation in addition to the Criminal Code of Canada, just so that they can, you know, massage each other's self-interests to gain wealth for themselves as they put that farage on that they're doing it for the public, okay? We can only assume that the Ugandan people are not like that. So with that, then you can go now and say, okay, Joel, we have a problem here. You've seen it. I've seen it. Lady Jane's seen it, right? Harriet, the traveler, has seen it. We're all flustered. We're all frustrated. We know something needs to be done. We don't know how to approach the problem, right? Clearly, we're compelled to look at it and to consider it and to try and help where we can. And you know, it's hard to walk away and say I don't want to help no more, even though you may be, you know, financially it's hard to do it. Like in my situation, you know, I'm kind of expected to follow through with that floor, right? With or without the support of other YouTubers, to which I am going to talk about here in a minute, because we're not going to put all YouTubers into one big bad barrel of self-interest group in terms of YouTubers that gimme, and that's still not enough. I want more now. Now I'm gonna run a new fucking hustle on you, and I'm gonna put my kid up in the front, and I'm gonna start a little GoFundMe for me and my son, or me and my granddaughter, even though I want you to still join my group and pay your $5.99 a month so that you can get some stupid perk that is no different than what I give to you free on YouTube. But it's just, you know, you got to support me if you want me to like you, because it's all about me, right? And don't forget the cash apps. Yeah. And if you're not going to do that, make sure you do the super stickers. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's all about me. Not everybody is like that. And I don't think Joel is. Welcome to my world if you're watching my video. Because you know I'm talking about you. Because we got life and death on our hands. People are being moved from one spot to another spot, whether in Canada or whether in Uganda. And when you get to the other spot, there is no place for you to live, right? In terms of like quality of living where you actually have a life. If anything, you're more subject to an early death. And from that, I don't know how the Ugandan government capitalizes off of that when you have death because of poverty, right? We'll just put it as poverty, because with poverty comes multiple fucking things, all right? But in Canada, it's big business because it results in body parts, people, illegal organ harvesting, people, with the funneling of that black market money of the sale of illegal body parts through human trafficking, with en masse evictions by a government that's hiding behind property owners as in, oh no, we didn't evict you. No. It was the property owner. We offloaded the responsibility onto the property owner. So if you got a problem with being evicted and homeless, take it up with the property owner. Because we're the government and we're not responsible for anything. But now we have to evict you. Yeah. Faster than what it was happening before through our shady, funky laws, right? In terms of, you know, zoning and all that crap when it comes to city zoning and tearing down buildings and houses and blah. But now we've got the expropriation with the eminent domain kicking in via through a government that's coming in through a back door, cutting freaking backroom deals with property developers out here in Canada that are harvesting human body parts to keep that system alive. I don't think they're harvesting human body parts in Uganda, but I wouldn't be surprised, people, because they have a nice fucking hospital. Nothing is new under the sun. I'm just saying, where is the benefit for the Uganda government to be kicking out thousands of people, not providing social safety nets where they can go and get some food for their children, right? I'm just saying, ensuring that there's enough affordable housing for the people before they bring in the corporations to build the freaking futuristic smart what do they call them? Compounds. They call them compounds, right? If they can bring in futuristic smart compounds through wealthy investors, well, they can work on social development and ensure that the Ugandan people that were born in that country have a quality of life. But we're not there yet with the government. Hell no. They're too busy evicting, right? And in my opinion, where they evicted those people, they say they're doing it for, to restore the land back to its natural wetland state, where I'm leaning towards, no, they're doing mining prospects. And because there is water in the neighborhood, in the area, available water, however it accumulates, that water becomes a commodity where if somebody wanted to start mining something, cobalt, who knows? Who knows what kind of mineral they're going to find under that establishment that they tore apart. And they're going to need water to do it. Which, if they start doing that, people will end up polluting the surrounding community. Or it could be what the government says. They just want to bring that area back to its original state with being a natural wetland. But if that is the case, if you're going to evict 2,000 people at one time, bust up their houses and leave you out there in the dirt, basically, then they should be willing to move them to another location where they get safely. Because if the government doesn't do that, then it becomes a crime, just like what the government is doing in Canada. By the government encouraging mass evictions right across the province of British Columbia, Canada, it is a crime. It falls under the Criminal Code of Canada, and it goes against the mandate of the Human Charter of Rights. But you can't really take the Human Charter of Rights you can't use that, quote unquote, per se, as a means to sue a government, as you pay to lose. Right? Anyway, that's the backstory on Joel. Okay? I do believe he's somebody that genuinely cares about his people. Now, he says he's from UK on his about, but, I mean, maybe he went to school there and lived there for a while. Why he's in Uganda, I don't know. Maybe he's just visiting, I don't know. Okay? All I know is I'm trying to get him involved with working on some program development so that we can build in some structure, so that we're all not just running around like chickens without our head on, in terms of whether you're the boots on the ground, going out and meeting the people, having to deal with this, that, and everything, handing over the resources to the people, and then maybe having to deal with the backlash, because Lady Jane is starting to deal with backlash on that, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Or whether you're people like me, sitting in a different country with, limited ability to do anything outside of to maybe financially support these people so that they can be boots on the ground, right? And then, of course, there's that big gap in there because, it's not easy. So anyway, I'm confused. So housing, this is on Joel's, and I'll put this video into my description box, because we have to give the man credit for putting up with me. That's the first thing, because we know how I can get. All right. I'm confused. So housing is booming, but children are practically starving in Uganda. While the Ugandan people ignore their responsibilities to the most vulnerable in their own country. But then that's nothing new, because we have that problem in the Western world as well, right? And to one degree or another. And then he answers back, housing is booming. Booming. Oh, isn't that interesting? Okay, booming, but they're evicting 2,000 at one time. Doesn't sound like booming to me. Unless they're clearing the land for maybe nefarious reasons, which will end up contaminating the water, the wetlands. And then what? It will be too late. Housing is booming because individuals invest in real estate, and companies so as well. Children starving because of very many factors which should be looked upon by responsible parties. Well, who are the responsible parties? Because you see, that's the thing, people. The Uganda government doesn't have a social safety net to meet the needs of each and every child in that country, and therefore it becomes to the point where children start to begin to practically starve. Whether they're starving or not remains to be seen. I can't prove that, but definitely they're on the cusp of starving, right? Or at least severe malnutrition because of lack of resources from responsible parties. Who are those responsible parties? Mama Peter struggling all by herself, being ignored by the community because the community itself is impoverished and doesn't have anything to give to Mama Peter because they can barely feed their own kids, right? Who do we get mad at? Who do we call irresponsible for that act outside of maybe the government not providing enough resources to the community itself so that those resources can be distributed equally between those who need it? Well, the wealthy can frolic and flourish, but at least not be, again, right? You see, that's dangerous precedence, though, people. That's a dangerous precedence because that's like my landlady saying, well, get the fuck out of my house. You can't afford the rent. Or no, she didn't say that. She said, how did she say it? How did she say it to me? Once you leave my house, you won't be able to afford another one because we know the housing market is rigged. And therefore, you should go to the government and have them house you. So before she would take responsibility for the corruption of her people in the temple, saying, let's rent gouge until there's nothing left to gouge so that we can get rich and live in monster house after monster house after monster house after monster house as we build inferior condos to make it look like that we're hard workers that at the end of the day nothing and nobody can afford, right? Outside of it's a means to launder money for the wealthy. Well, the same thing is happening now, starting to happen in Uganda. So, if my landlady is saying that the government is responsible for people like me to house me because I can't afford to keep up with the corruption that her people bring to my country through their rent gouging practices and their, amassing great wealth for themselves through their backroom deals with a corrupt government, with their schemes, with their buildings and this and that, and then throwing the illegal organ harvesting that goes unchecked out here. Well, it's the same thing there, right? Those people that are building those buildings, they don't care. They don't care any more than the people out here fucking care because they think the government should be doing it. But the government's not going to do it, though, people. So how do we reach the property developer? Clearly it's booming. He says it's booming right here. How do we reach them to help the smaller communities? How do you reach people? I don't know. And then I introduced him to Lady Jane, right? I let Lady Jane Moto, right, know that you may contact her. Because I asked him to contact Lady Jane to talk about the floor, people. Okay, I can't ask Latrice Allen, a famous YouTuber that's now begging on GoFundMe to support her and her son to travel from event to event so that they can promote their music. As she brags on the other side of her tongue, because she speaks with forked tongue, people, right? That, she bought houses and cars and this and that, and she buys clothes and throws them off to the side when she doesn't want them no more. She eats off of fucking plates, like throwaway plates and that kind of crap just because she's too damn lazy to wash fucking dishes. I'm just saying. She's always doing her freaking hair. How much does she pay for that? Right? Gimme. I have 2 houses. I got 4 cars, 3 cars. I got a pool. I've done this. I've got that. I got. But now she's got to open up a little fucking GoFundMe so that she can fundraise for $50,000 as she's still begging her other freaking subscribers to give her more money to pay her fucking bills because she's got this mortgage and that and this and that, all these things, but she's got no money to invest into her son, so he can become a famous fucking singer with her. Did I not tell you she was going to bump her son? Well, no, maybe not her son, but I told you she was going to bump her kids. And she did. And now she's using GoFundMe with her, oh, boo-hoo-hoo, sad, let me cry story, right, for donations. As if somebody owes her a fucking living. Yeah, okay. And then you've got Raw Squad doing the same damn shit, putting up a fundraiser, apparently on GoFundMe, for her grandchild. Another one there, bragging on about, oh, I got this, and I got, and I make this amount of money, and you're a jealous hater, and blah, and blah, and blah, and, you know, and I'm, you know, blah, and she's begging for GoFundMe so that I guess her granddaughter can go somewhere. Like, what the hell? Do you think they're going to help with little Peter? No. No, they're not. They never will help. That's why I asked this guy to help. Because maybe he might help. Because he's boots on the ground, and I think he actually fucking cares here. Right? Because if he didn't care, he'd do absolutely no charitable work. Now, the charitable work could be just click and bait, like clickbait. Could be just something to get you interested in order to, you know, but I don't think so. I don't think so. So I introduced him to Lady Jane. I'm just going to leave this in the description, okay? This is a long introduction. But I'm putting a lot of faith, I guess you can say. Because I think he could be a very positive influencer to work on program development for the Ugandan community. The Uganda community. Not this community, not that community, not that, but for the Uganda community as a whole. Outside of what's already established. Because for whatever is already established in terms of community development through their churches and obviously you can partner up and expand. You strengthen numbers, right? But as it is, there's a huge freaking gap in there. We've got the property developers moving in, you know, with the same type of agenda, in my opinion, at least at this point, where they're establishing more wealth for themselves at the expense of throwing away the most vulnerable in the community. A little here, a little there, one here, one over there, hoping that nobody notices so that they can live well and everybody else falters. So in the meantime, okay, to contact, right? So I've encouraged either he contact her or she contact him. Okay? They need to connect. And I've asked Lady Jane to invite him to meet with Mama Peter to discuss the floor. Now, whether I pay for it all by myself and just cut to the chase and be done with it, or whether this man can come in and help me out a little bit, because you know you're not getting it from Latrice Allen. You know you're not getting it from Raw Squad. You know you're not getting it from April Love or any of those other fucking people. Even Try Me Now, Rita, Sharita from Texas, maybe from Baltimore. Who knows? I don't know. I don't think so. Because I don't fit their criteria in terms of what is right on YouTube when it comes to content. Okay? So, just barking up a dead tree, right? Whether they step up to the plate, well, maybe Try Me Now might at some point in the future. We're still going to give her a little bit of a benefit of the doubt. But as for Raw Squad and Latrice Allen and likewise individuals, forget it. It ain't ever happening. Okay? And then this one here. So anyway, I'll just, if you want to read those, you can. I'll be doing a follow-up video with what's going on with little Peter's family. And I think I'll use this video of yours as a reference point to discuss program development for those, because if we don't bring in some form of program development people, we're all just going to be running around like chickens without our heads on in 5 years from now. There won't be no structure, right? It will be just a mosh pause of flip-flop, just fly-by-night, whatever, community activism that people will either ignore or they'll exploit. So, for those who are the most vulnerable in your country, so I'm not asking him just to consider what I'm saying in regards to little Peter and his family, but being that he's already a community activist, he's already doing charitable work, obviously he's got the country on his mind in terms of Uganda. Right? Where and how much experience he has with program development, I don't know. You are a positive influencer with insight to the greater needs of your people. I'm assuming he's Ugandan, even though he says he's from UK, because he's there in Uganda doing charitable work. So I guess maybe he'll clarify that one day. I don't know. And again, thanks for taking the time to consider what I say. Because he's leaving my posts up, people. He's not deleting them, as far as I can tell. Because he answered me. And he's letting them roll. Right? He's letting them roll. I'm trying not to spam him. But then on the same hand, if I don't tell him what's going on, how the heck would he know? He wouldn't. So,
from idea to submission.
Oh my God. Hold on a minute. Okay, so we're just going to look as he goes into this compound. Right? And then I'm going to provide the link into this video. So, this is what's booming. Kind of like what's booming out here with these shadow buildings that are meant for the public, but very few can afford to rent. Unless you're a specific kind of individual who can afford $4,000 a month and up. For a small unit with inferior walls and plastic pipes with clips to hold them together. That's what you pay $4,000 a month for now in my province. Well, it's a similar situation. In one hand, they're tearing down homes where people have lived for years, where it affects 2,000 people or more at one time, and putting them into instant homelessness and left to fend for themselves and live in complete squalor. Well, on the other hand, we've got the property developers, the investors, coming in, building the new smart city. He calls it futuristic, but clearly we're going into that smart city agenda. Who's moving in there? What they do for employment, I don't know. He doesn't talk about that, but it should be interesting to know who moves in there, what their annual incomes are, right? And how they contribute to the economy through their taxes, I suppose, that makes it affordable for them to live. Like, what do they do? Like, what's their job description? What do you have to be before you, what do you have to be? Who do you have to be before you can move into these buildings?
Check it out. Now, today I'm going to specifically show you one of the smart homes here, which is completed. And you can see the security is tight. One of the most rare, actually, I think it's the best make in the way that this is the first time of me seeing it in Uganda.
Okay, just look at what you're looking at here and start putting a dollar amount on how much it costed to build it compared to what it's going to cost to put a floor down for Mama Peter. Okay? We're looking at about $500 to put the floor in, buy a few mats or floor rugs or something to put over the cement, and a couple of solar-powered lanterns. And maybe, if we're lucky, a little extra food. But it wouldn't be much. That's why I did the $200 donation last week for the food, because it ran out. Mama Peter's been starting to feed the neighborhood kids, as some of the mothers in the neighborhood, or women, or whoever, 3 of them, are crabbing on with Lady Jane because Lady Jane's not giving to them. So now they formed a little group to intimidate Lady Jane because they're feeling jealous and left out. Even though maybe their kids are going over playing with Peter, and as Mama Peter's feeding little Peter, he's got a little friends visiting, and any mom would know if the friends are over, you're going to feed the kids. So she's been feeding other people's kids. So that makes the food that I buy her go down faster. Well, some of these women that live close by to her are jealous and starting to make threats on Lady Jane. Right? Well, we've got the property developer building gated communities to keep the poor people out, I suppose, people. Why is it gated?
A gate. Really? It's your first time?
First time I've seen it.
And what type of income, Uganda income, do you need in order to either purchase one of these things, which have real windows? Mama Peter doesn't have a real window, though. She's got a curtain. And maybe a piece of board with a little lock on it to keep people out. The thieves, that is, right? But is this where the doctors live, people? The doctors, people. Huh? And where did the doctors get their money from? I wonder, is it the lawyers, the ones that fight for justice? Is that who lives there? Or is it government officials? Or maybe it's some what is that called? Tourist that lives in either Canada or United States, you know, and they just wanted to have their little getaway, their little hideaway, right? Because, you know, money goes a long way in Uganda, and they can afford to make the investment so they can go there 2 months out of the year, 6 months out of the year, and perhaps participate in nefarious activities when it comes to child trafficking. Okay? I'm just saying, what kind of people live in these buildings? And how do they make their money? And how much money do they have to make in order to live there as they plan to build the next compound, or perhaps ghost compound? We got ghost buildings out here in British Columbia, Canada. Already proved that. Because it's a means to launder money. Right?
So smart, okay? So nice.
That's real metal, people. You heard it clanging. Okay? And what did we put on Mama Peter's house? Metal sheeting. To keep the rains out. And if I wouldn't have helped Lady Jane to do that, by making sure that Lady Jane had the money to do that, Mama Peter would be sitting there still with a leaky roof. Yeah. This is the gap. This is where program development needs to come into play at some point. Otherwise, you'll be on a hamster wheel that you'll never get off of, as these ones that do the wheeling and dealing and this kind of stuff prosper and then capitalize off of the surplus that they created through their manufactured poverty in their own country.
This is the compound, guys.
Yeah,
The compound.
it looks so good.
Compound is so nice.
And man, just
But it's gated. Is it meant to keep people out, or is it meant for privacy? Personally, I wouldn't want that for myself. But then I don't live in Uganda, So I don't know.
Well, just allow me. Thank you. You're so smart, man.
Thank you very much.
And how did he get in there? That's what I'm curious to know. How did he get the right? Did he just no? Because he actually goes inside. So he got permission to go in there. Is he an investor? Did he invest into this? Or does he just know people? Right? Right? I'm just saying.
As much just like the house.
Actually, people could be wondering who is talking behind the camera.
UG
UG. Connect, yeah.
Grateful, man.
This is FT.
Oh my lord. Okay, so the point is, I'm going to leave this video, which got already 22,000 Ks in terms of view, right? And he uploaded this 1 year ago. And he answered it back to me just recently. I didn't realize this video was made a year ago. He said it's a boom. So that means that whatever happened here has happened again and again. It's something is booming in Uganda, somewhere up probably in the Kampala area, I'm not sure. Okay, I don't know. Okay, either or. Either or. It's still happening because he says it's a boom. He put it in the here and now as of July of 2024 because I just came across his channel. And clearly he has connections, whether through being a socialite, in terms of, just he has charisma, he's a tall man, he's obviously educated, right? He's a philanthropist, right? Like he does charitable work, and whatnot. Okay, so, he has connections, okay? But I want to get on with what's going on with Mama Peter and Little Peter and the kids. Like, look at this. This is like fucking row housing. Look at this. Okay, you're talking big bucks here. So if we're going to do program development, people, right, we need to find a way to encourage social responsibility where the ones that are doing really well just don't rely on the government to fill in the freaking gap for the I'm trying to be tactful here, but yeah, it's hard to be tactful, like in terms of like the economy, like, like from the poorest of the poor to the working poor to the middle class, right? I mean, clearly this is not the middle class here that we're looking at. I don't think so, right? So, how do we help the poorest of the poor, the working poor, the disabled, whatever, and the middle class of Uganda, okay? Where the people that build these things and live inside of these things have a sense of social responsibility so that they don't have to rely on their fences to keep out what they had a hand in creating when it came to that manufactured poverty for the purpose of gaining wealth for yourself or for your collective group or religious group. I don't know. The point is, this man has insight. He can see both worlds. He can see the poorest of the poor and how they're being treated, and he can see how the wealthy are prospering and creating programs, developing programs for themselves as they leave everybody else behind. Whether he can solve that problem through networking with those that have and those that don't, I don't know. All I know is I'm asking for help for little Peter and his family. Heck, people, I can't even get a toy truck for little Peter. Okay. But yet, it makes me wonder, how is it you can't get a decent toy truck, a dump truck, right, for a little boy in Uganda. Like a decent size, right? For him to play with, like a Tonka type truck, right? That's a decent size for him to play with. You can't find that for a little boy in Uganda. But clearly somebody's coming in with their big trucks, bulldozing everything down, running off with whatever, and then coming back and with more trucks and building this kind of crap. But they don't, they don't allow the children to have trucks. Why? Why? And I'm up in Canada, and I can't even get one truck out of many trucks that I have in my house, in my yard, to a little boy who would love to have it. Why? Why is it these guys that build this shit can have their trucks, but little boys in Africa can't have trucks to play with? Why? Oh, we'll just listen for a couple more minutes, and then we're going to go into Lady Jane's video that she just uploaded today in regards to a little truck. Actually, it's quite convenient that now that I'm thinking about it. How is it that a little boy can't get a freaking Tonka truck to play with in the yard with his friends? But property developers can come in with their gated communities, metal gated communities, where families live in huts with leaky roofs and dirt floors. But they can have trucks. They can have as many trucks as they want. As a matter of fact, it's booming with trucks. That's the disparity. Oh yeah, right. Doing videos like this isn't necessarily easy, people, because sometimes you have to say things that you don't want to say, or you want to say something but you don't know how to say it, right? Or you try and say something but it falls on deaf ears, and you're kind of like stuck on YouTube shadow ban wagon, where it's more about shaming you than praising you when it comes to being a community activist, right? When it comes to that corporation where they have the dump truck, but the little children can never have a dump truck, even in the form of a toy, to play with.
Nice. I think here they can go 3 to 4 cars.
3. I think there are 3.
3 cars. Yeah, 3 cars. Then this is the exterior. This is, so nice.
They used stones for the finishing.
Yes, and Mama Peter has this on the outside of her home, but because it's, been weather warned, there's weak spots where they need to be cemented into, which I think Lady Jane did do when we did the roof. But did she get them all? I don't know, because if a brick falls out, people, everything starts to crumble. Okay, so it's important to do your little patch-up repairs on this stuff. Okay? Get the floor in for Mama Peter, then yeah, you'd backtrack and double check. And if we're doing the floor, it would be great if we could make a form of a rocket stove at the same time, where it has a little oven where if she wanted to bake bread on the inside, she could. So that's, another reason why I'm kind of rounding it off at $500. But even then, it's a hit and miss. But not for these guys. Not for these guys with their boom.
Yes.
And it is
They can afford anything they want to build.
very nice, man.
Very, very nice, man. Very, very nice. You guys check the compound.
I'm surprised to even see windows in Uganda. No, that was being a sarcastic kind of way. Of course there's windows in Uganda, but it more in line with the cities, right? Not in the villages per se.
Compound, and this is so rare. This garden is so rare.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's imported.
So he's talking on about real plants, which is probably unusual, being that he noted it.
It's just imported, guys. Yeah, imported. Look at the nice
It
view,
was just planted.
guys. Nice view, guys. Oh my God.
No, there is no nice view. It's a gated community. But I suppose when the bush grows, it will cover up the gates so you won't see it, and then all you'll see is green, which is a kind of fake. Right? In terms of if you're hiding out in the gated community, keeping everybody out, and you don't want them to see how you're living because you know that ones on the outside are jealous, well, of course you're going to try and put brush in there to cover it up. Not only to hide your sins as you eat and the people on the outside starve, but also to, because then you don't have to see what you created on the outside, right? You can just eat your food, be the glutton that you want to be, and not care about the ones on the other side trying to look in who are actually starving. So I suppose there's lots of benefits to that bush covering up that gated fence. I know, I'm jaded. Right.
Look at the gardening.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God. So nice, man. Look at the walkway. Walkway is so nice.
Yeah, it's my man, Joel Obertan.
Look at the security bit of it.
Yeah, security, that is electricity.
Electricity.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about the security. It's wonderful, guys.
So they have security to keep even more people out. Why? I thought people live free in Uganda and eat healthy food. Why you want to move into something where you have to lock yourself up like a criminal? I'm just saying. For security, that is.
Look at how the neighborhood security.
And then build more and more and more and more. Well, it kind of makes you wonder how much money these people are making as they move into these buildings. Seriously, where's that underground economy? Because you know there's something going on in there, right?
It is so tight.
Yes.
This is the backyard, right?
Yeah, this is their backyard.
Come, please. You see? So here.
So he has the freedom to walk through this place. Do you notice that? Ain't nobody following him. He's doing it all on his own. So he's either part of the development in terms of he's connected with the property development itself, right? Or they just gave him an opportunity to promote the development for promo purposes, and then gave him the green light to go in there and do that because they knew that they were going to get free promo off of his video. Or maybe it's both.
So.
Wow, I love the finishing. These guys paid attention to detail.
Yes, okay, this
to the
is
finishing.
So nice, designed to last for years. That's the value of your money, guys. That's the value of your money. Security is so tight. Yeah.
And we can't even get people to help with the floor from Mama Peter. Yeah, from Mama Peter. Yeah. With children.
So this is still a backyard. Yeah. So guys,
man, the windows are very huge.
Huge.
Very, very huge windows, and I love the fact that they are glass windows.
Yes.
Yeah, guys, hey, UG Connect here.
Yeah, man. Oh, bro, look at this gardening, these flowers.
Yeah, I think this is this cactus?
Cactus, yeah. Not so sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So, guys, this is the exterior bit of it.
The compound and the backyard.
So fabulous. It's so fantastic, man. Yeah.
Very nice. So you're taking us inside?
Yeah, interior bit of it.
Wow.
Look
at the entrance.
Oh my God. God. Come inside, please. Oh my God. Look at it.
Okay. So you can see what's going on here. Now keep this in mind. With the way Mama Peter lives within her community, who is forgotten about, for the most part. Okay? Well, the property developers come in with their, well, we're improving the neighborhood for the public. Okay.
Man,
this is the sitting room, living room.
My God. Like,
Can you see this?
Look at the TV set.
This is a
So when you see shit like this, and then, you know, you end up in my position where you're kind of expected to donate money to a very, very, very vulnerable family, knowing that the people that actually live in Uganda don't even want to help their own people, unless, of course, the people that own these things are coming from other countries, like wherever they come from, as investors, right? And just want to have a good time when they go to Uganda and hang out in their new condo with a gated fucking fence where that nobody can look inside and see them eat their steak. And then they're going to go back to their own country and go back to being honest Joes, working their job so that they can stimulate the Uganda economy the next time they come back and hang out in their condo for a while. Or are people moving into this place and this is where they live 24/7, 12 months out of the year, working within the community? And if so, what kind of freaking jobs are they working at? And are they legitimate into the with the fact that there's no illegal activity going around under that underground economy with the exploitation of the poorest of the poor, where there too illegal organ harvesting is happening, based on the displacement of thousands of people across that country, where nobody really takes notice because they're just poor people and who cares? Okay? What is that? A big TV screen? Like, this is pathetic.
huge TV.
Huge, man.
Is this 60?
How do you reach gluttons? How do you reach selfish people? Seriously. They're borderline psychopaths that participate in terrible activities just so that they can sustain their wealth and gain more because they're never satisfied with what they have. Right? I'm not saying this is what we're looking at here, but this is what we're up against. Do you honestly think that if Joel went and asked the people who own this compound and all these buildings, whether it's one person or a group of people, to help with charity work, to build up a community with a whole bunch of little Peters inside of them, in terms of the, you know, the little children, right? So that they can have some toy trucks and pretend that they can grow up and be construction workers and build good things. But, you know, as it is, the children can't even get the toy to even learn what it means to be a construction worker. And that's being done by design, I'm telling you people. Social engineering, okay? Little Peter and his family and his surrounding community are under lock and key through social engineering by the very people that build this shit. And it's not being done for the wellness of the community in terms of Mama Peter and her community. Okay?
Something inches?
Yeah.
Do you think he can go get a donation off of these people that allowed him to go onto their premises to help poor people? Maybe they have already done it. Who knows? Maybe they're more socially responsible than we think. Give credit where credit is due. Don't cast judgment. Don't assume. Believe half of what you see, none of what you hear. I don't know what to believe right now, people. But I do believe that Mama Peter is in the position that she's in, and that what we're looking at here in terms of wealth disparity between the two groups, right, is humongous. This makes me think of warlords. The warlords that are running the country, using the people as cattle, just like with the politicians out here and the interest groups out here, whether they're organized religion or just property developers they're like warlords. Right? Because they sure in hell don't improve the community as a whole, because it always goes back to being self-interest. And this is a self-interest group that relies on metal fences and bushes to hide what they're doing so that they can maybe feel safe with their security systems. And then say they have a quality of life. They deserve to have a quality of life, but not Mama Peter and what she represents in terms of her quality of life, which is minimal. Which puts pressure on this man, because there's a lot of Mama Peters out there with a lot of little Peters and a lot of little lilies, Jojo lilies, little girls. It's not just about the little boys, it's also about the little girls. There's a lot of them out there that are falling through the cracks, while the rich get richer. And for some reason, he's in the middle of that. Clearly, you can see that. So, how deep he's in that game, I don't know. But I do know that he's compelled to be a community activist, and with that, that's why I've done outreach with him. Just like I did outreach with Lady Jane, I've been doing a little bit of outreach with him. I'm trying to get him to connect with Lady Jane, whether he contacts her or whether she contacts him. You know, they're in the same vicinity. And, we need to focus on program development and brainstorm, call in a few more boots on the ground, right? And if we can get people that own places like this involved, clearly that would be helpful, but don't take it for granted. Don't expect them to do it, because many of them are corrupt.
It should be like
65
yeah.
or 70 something inches.
Yeah.
Look at the art, my God. Look at the art.
Okay, so what we're going to do now...
Nice, man.
The interior designing is so good.
Too good. I think it's there.
Okay, so we're going to leave that there, and we're going to put that into my description box. And now we're going to go into the real world, because that's kind of like a farage. Only some people, a very few people can have what Joel was showing. Okay? And there's a cost to it, a huge cost. And many of them don't get there legitimately when they finally get to that point. Okay? Alright, so this was uploaded today. And it's actually in regard, you can see what's going on here. It's actually in regard to the little truck that I so desperately want little Peter to have. But it appears to be almost an impossible task, for whatever strange reason outside of his social engineering. Somebody in that country up high doesn't want little boys or girls to have toy trucks that are like Tonka tyke size, which is, a foot long or more, foot high, foot long, just what, we're not talking those little cars. We're talking, big Tonka plastic. For whatever reason, they don't want the children to have that type of toy in that country, to which makes me think social engineering. They don't want little boys and girls dreaming about becoming construction workers and building things in their own country, because there's a self-interest group in that country already building. Clearly, we've seen that from outside investments, because I don't believe all that investment that went into that building that Joel just showed us all came from people in Uganda. It's probably an outside source with Ugandans perhaps investing into it, but are not the ones that are pushing it forward any more than the ones out here pushing it forward. Okay, hold on a minute. Okay, so before we go on to Lady Jane's video here with the little truck and everything that didn't make it to little Peter, to which maybe Joel in his travels can find a Tonka-type truck and make plans to go visit Mama Peter and bring that truck to little Peter children learn through play, people. How is little Peter supposed to know if he could be a construction worker and build his own complexes as a man when he grows up, if he doesn't get a chance to play with the toys, to even know what a truck is and what it can do, and implant those memories into his, it goes into the hippocampus, short-term memory through play, goes into long-term memory, he grows, and then he finds his own way through life and he discovers he's got talent. How is he supposed to discover the talent if he never played with a toy truck when he was little? Because his government is preventing him from doing that. Because they've somehow been taken over by an outside entity that's obviously making investments, people, into booming futuristic compounds where only some people can live, but it has to be gated, covered up by bushes with security systems that require 70-inch TVs just to keep the people out. That is no way to live. You're going back to freaking, what is that called? South Africa with apartheid. No? Is that not true? And it's foreign investors, more than likely, that are doing that. Well, the Uganda people are on the chopping block, just like the Canadian-born people are on the chopping block in Canada, as that corporate process is being done in Canada. And I've shown you that with my videos. And now I'm thinking about a class action lawsuit, ready to pay to lose, 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 pay to lose. Yeah, okay. So in the meantime, before we get into Lady Jane's video, we're going to touch base on my playlist here, Changing Lives, Happiness on a Whole New Level. We're at 21 videos currently, because I'm adding in now other people's randomly in relation to the subject at hand here when it comes to changing lives and bringing happiness to a whole new level, right? My last video regarding this subject was we're rolling the dice. When does it become charity? Because I'm in a position right now where I'm struggling, feeling like I'm the only one holding the torch here, well, at least in Canada, from my end of being boots on the ground, right? Being completely ignored by the larger YouTubers that could do a fundraiser and do a one-time donation where not only would it help Mama Peter with her situation, but it can start to expand out into program development to encompass the larger village, so to fill in the gaps where jealousy isn't left to breed unchecked, where aminosity takes over and the level of poverty just kind of stays the same. But alrighty, we work with what we have, and we know this camera that I use just blinked out on me. Okay, I'm back. Now, I watched the other videos that I just did, and it looks like we're getting into a 2-hour video. So honestly, camera blinked out. I was in the middle of mid-sentence, and so from what I just heard, if I can get back on track, I'm going to say what I have to say in regards to the playlist, and then I'm going to start working on converting over this video as a whole, as part 1, with part 2, me following up with Lady Jane and her videos to continue on with the discussion of what we're discussing here. Otherwise, it's going to be a 3-4 hour video, because I don't want to shortchange what I have to say in regards to what Lady Jane's going what she's been doing, what's been going on, what she's been facing, who she's been having to call in terms of the big guns, right? You know, the top dogs, right? In terms of, you know, she's been having to call in the chairman of, I suppose, the church or somebody that's called a chairman. I don't know in terms of where that chairman falls in the community as a chair, is like a chief. Maybe he's the chief, or it could be a woman, I don't know. Either or. As I was saying, what was I saying? Let me bring this up. Let me bring up this last video just to get the gist of what I was saying so I can finish my sentence, and then I can start fresh with part 2 of what I'm talking about right now. So okay, so before we go on to Lady Jane's video, okay, so we're gonna just bring it to here. Being completely ignored. Okay, so we need to bring it back. This is where we were. Okay, we're gonna listen. Before we get into Lady Jane's video, we're gonna touch base on my playlist here, Changing Lives, Happiness on a Whole New Level. We're at 21 videos currently because I'm adding in now other people's random. There's that rolling of the dice. Right? I say we're rolling the dice, and now I've got 3 new channels in my playlist that are somewhat classified as community activists. Okay? In relation to the subject at hand here, when it comes to changing lives and bringing happiness to a whole new level, right? My last video regarding this subject was we're rolling the dice. When does it become charity? Because I'm in a position right now where I'm struggling, feeling like I'm the only one holding the torch here, well, at least in Canada, from my end of being boots on the ground, right? Being completely ignored by the larger YouTubers that could do a fundraiser and do a one-time donation. And in that situation, people, I'm talking like $8,000, $10,000 per pop. So if you were to have a YouTuber like Latrice Allen do a fundraiser for the community where Mama Peter lives, to not only help with the floor in Mama Peter's home, but maybe a few other floors in other homes that are connected to her community, in addition to perhaps set up a food bank at the local church where families that are struggling with food insecurity can go even once a month for a small food hamper, right? And when you're dealing in bulk like that, people, you know, right, in terms of you can go off and spend $3,000 worth of money to buy X amount of bags of beans, white rice, maize, and that kind of thing in bulk, right from the farmer. You're going to get more for your money. And that's how you start to uplift a whole community. But, of course, Latrice Allen wouldn't do that because that would put her $8,000 short in her GoFundMe to promote herself and her son, as if she hasn't done enough on YouTube when it comes to gimme, gimme, gimme. Like I said, the woman is never fucking satisfied, and it's pathetic. Same thing with Raw Squad. So yeah, now I'm going outside of the box, and I'm approaching people like Joel. Not that Joel can do an $8,000 fundraiser, but you never know. He's got connections. Maybe he could. It's hard to say. All I know is if we want to see big change, we need to come in with big change. $8,000, $10,000 from one fundraiser with goodwill in mind, for all the right reasons, could go a long way and could help a whole community to dig itself out of manufactured poverty. Where not only would it help Mama Peter, with her situation, but it can start to expand out into program development to encompass the larger village, so to fill in the gaps where jealousy isn't left to breed unchecked, where animosity takes over and the level of poverty just kind of stays the same, but cut. Okay, they're cut out. So as I was saying, what I want isn't what I'm going to get, because the people that run the so-called YouTube streets are stuck on themselves and therefore are not reliable individuals to ask for help, which has brought me now more on the outside of the box, I guess you could say, where I'm now approaching people like Joel to fill in the gap. Not that he could fill it in, but you don't know until you ask. So in the meantime, we're rolling the dice, and we've invited more people to play the game, which is obviously hardball for the people. We've got Harriet the Traveler, who knows Joel. I'm starting to figure that one out. How they're interconnected, I'm not sure. I don't know if they have a society or if they're just people that randomly came together because they're of like mind and they can't turn their back on humanitarian needs. Okay? And then we've got this individual here, which I included because basically they said that this was a camp, but this was not a camp. Okay? Life in some refugee, okay, in Uganda. This is, yeah, it's a settlement. It's a settlement in Uganda that has people from different parts of Africa, the Congo, Ethiopia, Sudan, places like that, where for whatever reason the Uganda government has taken them under their wing, has provided land for them to build their own communities, I would think on a temporary basis, but because they have no place to go, it becomes long-term. So they, begin to set up their own e-commerce, like they do anywhere in Uganda. And they tend to migrate with birds of a feather flock together. So in other words, over here you've got the Sudanese community, over here you've got the Ethiopians in their community, over here you've got the Congolese in their community, and so on and so on. But ultimately it's a settlement of refugees that's being supported by the government and the people themselves. Okay, as to where they're going to go, I don't know. It's not a refugee camp, because if it was a refugee camp, they would be intense. The families would be intense under the sweltering sun, waiting for that jug of sour milk coming in once a week. Where these people get their food in this settlement, how their e-commerce are working, how much the government supports them as a whole, regardless from what country they come from, I don't know. I just know there's a disparity between how the immigrants are being treated. There is a disparity. There is a disparity as to how the immigrants coming in from different African countries into Uganda are being treated once they're put into a settlement, compared to the Ugandan people who live there and are being evicted from their homes and then not given anything to relocate outside of nothing, okay? Which puts them at risk to harm, injury, and death. So there's that forked tongue that seems to be a global problem, because we have that same problem in British Columbia, Canada, where the immigrants out here are being settled into settlements through the federal, provincial, and municipal subsidies that give them the freedom to take up housing first before the Canadian people living in the province, as we're being forced out of our housing to accommodate them. But now we're into a different stage. I said we're going into stage 2 now, right? All the Canadians that were in the basement suites, bungalows with the lower rents, everything, they've already been flushed out of their houses to accommodate the influx of the immigrants. But now the focus is the immigrants, because they take up a large majority of the housing, because they've had years to bring them here to Canada, right? So that's why with that apartment with the 57 households, a large majority of those people living in that apartment building that's being demolished for property development, for the wellness of the public, which is a bunch of crock with the forked tongue, are of immigrants, because they need the government and the criminals and the crooks, the body snatchers, the traffickers of human body parts. They need that surplus of injury and harm that comes from what's happening here through that eminent domain expropriation process to continue to prop up the black market and underground economy. Because, you know, what they do is they do in the dark, people. Like I said, there's not that many addicts left in the province of British Columbia, Canada. They've basically been harvested. And what addicts they do keep out there is just a smokescreen. Because now they've gone on to level 2 as they're clearing out all the apartment buildings and flushing out the beautiful sisters of Shimei with the beautiful teeth. Stressing out those families with low income and no place to go. And out of 1,000 people, if they can harvest even 100 of them, then those crooks are laughing. I don't know how to say it any other way. It's the same thing that's going on in Uganda. You just not hearing about it. Okay, so anyway, why? Why is the Uganda government propping up a settlement of thousands of people from different countries, but abandoning the Uganda people and bulldozing down their homes? Here you've got the government bulldozing down Ugandan citizens' homes on a whim and not providing any services to fill in the gap after the fact. But yet, in the same breath, you've got the Uganda government propping up refugees in camps in the numbers of thousands, where clearly there's government support, otherwise it wouldn't be happening. And then we've got Joel coming in the ranks, because he's in the race, right, playing hardball, doing his charitable deed, right, because some American person donated money to give to the people that had their houses destroyed. So it took charity from an American boots on the ground to contact boots on the ground to do what the government should be doing, as the government caters to refugees. Now I'm going to provide Joel's video. Well, I guess I could provide this one, as well as this one, right? Or you can just come and into the playlist and find them yourselves. But definitely this one, right? Because you know, right? And I'm going to provide the property development one, the two of them. The property development one with Joel doing the walkthrough, walk and talk, and this one where they're taking in refugees from multiple countries within Africa and setting them up into settlements where they can live their lives basically in peace. While the Ugandan people, like the Canadian people, are being terrorized by our governments as we're being evicted from our homes. So I could include this video, Harriet the Traveler, right? I can include this video with the settlement with this person, this YouTuber, and then I can include the what we were just looking at with the this video inside Uganda's futuristic and smart home, so that we get a clearer understanding of what we're dealing with when it comes to disparities, perhaps. Right? So I'm going to end it here because it's going to be 2.5-hour video. Right? And then I'm going to get into Mama Peter's video. This one here. And we're going to walk through this and perhaps even the one before that, because I never did do a follow-up on it. What I did do was I provided the link and I made mention to it. Now, dear Jane Moto, she changed her name. I don't know how she's going to promote it, because personally I can't even pronounce it. But besides that point, this just came in today. I've advised Lady Jane again today. She needs to start working on her playlist. Okay? Right? And then this was the last time, it wasn't even a month ago, that she did the follow-up with the last time I made a donation. Right? And that's when she was supposed to buy the truck. This is where Mama Peter got a pressure canner, which almost gave me a heart attack. Right? So we should backtrack and do these two videos, because I never did a follow-up on them, but I did provide them in, I did make mention of them in my own personal videos, as well as I included them into my playlist, but I never actually, I was going to, but of course I got distracted. So we'll touch base on these two, and then we'll bring in this one, because this is the follow-up for the truck that we can't seem to get. And then we're going to get another one or two coming in, because I just gave Lady Drain, like I said, another $200 about a week and a half ago or something like that, like a week ago. It hasn't even been a week, right, to top off with food, because the food is running out. And this is where the Uganda government is failing the people. But it doesn't appear to be failing the people who are living in the settlement. But I'm just assuming that. Okay.